I will be asking my guest of the month 3 questions, 4 max, and then I'll give you all the mic, all right? So for this month, there was someone really, really special. I've been following her work for a very long time now. And, to be frank, one of, every single time I ask about her, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but every single time I ask about her, they only speak positively about this person. I was like, damn, I need to meet that person. Like they just talk positively about that person. And I got, I was lucky enough to get to know her around 2 years ago. And I was always following her work. And her name is Nadine Mizher, all right? She's won awards. She's won awards. She's in the Fintech industry. And she just launched her new startup as well. So please, Nadine, welcome on stage, all right? And thank you for being here with us. I'm gonna give you the loud one. Yeah. Great. First of all, Nadine, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. And amazing pitches, by the way, everyone.
Yeah. I always wanted to, first of all, let's start by, telling everyone who is Nadine and what has Nadine done, which is Sarwa, and maybe Nawa. Is pronounced Nawa?
Nawa.
Nawa,
Yeah.
Nawa.
Yeah. So Sarwa is the company I co-founded around 8 years ago. It's in financial technology. And we are an investment platform. So we help people invest their money, whether it's in self-directed trading, so buying stocks, ETFs, crypto, so on. Or we have diversified portfolios also that you can put your money in and forget about it. So that's the company we started the end of 2017. We were part of an accelerator. Now we are backed by Mubadala, by DIFC, and by Kipco. And it's on an amazing journey. We have a great team, and it keeps growing. And I'm very proud of the team that's behind it, to be honest. Yeah.
So that was 2017. That was almost 9 years ago. And do you remember the moment of when Sarwa was just an idea and you kind of went like, oh, that could be something really big? Do you remember that moment? Or was it a different experience for you?
There were so many milestones. I would say it's always, when you're so busy building and going through the grind of the day-to-day that every little win is a big celebration, right? So look, Sarwa, again, is a very, I don't know how many of you is in Fintech? Okay.
How many Fintechs?
You're users of Sarwa. Okay, amazing. Okay, good to know.
Do I get a commission on it since you?
They're already clients. But as a regulated entity, when we started, it was a very tough environment because we literally were the first to receive what we call the innovation testing license, which is the license by the FSA in the IFC to start going to market. And initially, they only allowed us to get 10 clients, right? Wow. So that was a moment of a big, oh my God, we made it. We were able to go public with 10 clients. But then we had to sort of fight with them. We were meeting with them on a regular basis, twice a week. Sometimes we just show up to the DFSA office. Very unusual, by the way. I can tell you something about regulators in Dubai is that they have a conversational approach, at least when we started building. But we'd go to them and we pushed to have more clients. So we asked them if we can go to 50. Then they had to approve 50 clients, and then we pushed to 100, and that was 1 year of a go-to-market. We only had 100 clients. We were only allowed to have 100 clients. And then that, I think, was the moment when we realized, oh my God, we can go big, is when they allowed us to open to the broad market.
Okay, interesting. So, because it's such a regulated space, right? And usually any tech founder here or any founder, they tend to kind of test out their products and try to understand, if they can find product market fit. But usually when it comes to finance, it's such a sensitive space, right? Yeah. How were you able to kind of validate your problem, all right, by telling people that didn't know who you were back then, how can you get them to trust you, to kind of give you their money in order to invest? This is my first question. And what did you do to actually scale that trust? So What are the strategies or thoughts on that?
I think very, very early on, we decided that it's not enough to have an amazing product, that you really, really need to focus on distribution. And it was, by the way, one lesson that we've learned that's very underrated is the importance, when you build a company, the importance of culture. Because I think that's your biggest win, is how do you create a team that has that sense of ownership, that has that passion for the product, right? So with Sarwa, from the get-go, we focused on marketing, and we made sure that everyone involved in the team understands that marketing is not a department that sits in silo. It's actually something that's across every single person within the company. Everyone is marketing your product, right? Even the tech people, the finance people, the accounting, everyone has a role. So it's really in the details of everything we do. So we put a lot of effort behind this, and we started going, we have a very detailed strategy around it, but we needed to build trust because, to your point, as a financial institution, we're asking people to give us their hard-earned money. And that's the most difficult thing you can ask people to give you when no one's heard of you, right? So already we're competing with the big banks, we're competing with the big real estate developer, anyone that wants to get your money was our competition. So we went straight ahead in building trust. So we did free workshops, free events. We opened the office space, which is a co-working space that we would rent from the co-working management. And we used to do weekly events. So we'd invite people, come for pizza, come for juice, and we're going to tell you all about investing and how you can build wealth and how you can become financially independent. We went to businesses. So we did a lot of B2B2C. We would go to companies, we tell them, happy employees are productive employees. So let us show them how to not be financially struggling. We can help them understand how to build better financial futures, and so on. And we started going, into social media, creating that presence so people can trust the people behind the company. So again, it was a strategy where we listed every single channel we had, the unpaid one, because we didn't have budget. So we had to really, really focus on everything that's unpaid. And then where is the people we want to market? Where are they? How do we get to them? So where is your segment? And we started going after, the clients we want to bring on board, creating a community very similar to this.
I love the happy employee, happy returns. So, you've raised approximately, obviously you and your co-founders have raised approximately $25 million. This is what Mark said on the LinkedIn.
It's true.
So $25 million. And, if you have one advice to all these founders today in the room who are actually raising, what is the top advice that you would actually give them?
It's a very personal thing. But to me, what I've learned, and again with Nawa, and I had a business before Sarwa too, is if you feel like you're selling, walk out. I think there's a sense of, I need to convince them to come in, but if you need to convince someone, they're already not convinced. And it's going to be a very hard pitch and a very long process. So try to get a sense from the get-go of who these people are that understand what you do, why you're building it, and are actually having a conversation with you. Because, we talk about sales pitches, but the reality is the real investors that will end up coming in are the ones that actually talk to you, that have an open conversation.
Love that. Great. Wow, I have so many other questions, but I have to be fair to my audience. So, guys, I'm going to open up the floor, all right, to a lot of questions. Nizar, we'll start with you. And then a Sarwa user.
I'm not even going to ask a question. I'm just going to ask your experience.
Okay.
Shall we stick to our crypto positions or shall we die?
No financial advice today. It depends on your personal situation, right? So we always say that investing in volatile products is a risk taking. So it really depends on your financial situation and how much you're willing to take that risk. We'd stay with that.
Great. Second question. Sarwa user here, by the way.
Hi, Nadine. Great speech. And I really I mean, it's a pleasure meeting you in person. Like, I mean, the person behind Sarwa. I've been using Sarwa for like last 5 years, maybe. Right. So, as you said, the trust thing, right? I don't remember it's you or your somebody from your company. Yeah, as you said, you came to my company, and first thing you did was like you didn't introduce your company. I mean, you were talking about like financial literacy. You were like, I mean, we were having that conversation. I'm not a guy who usually trusts somebody like all of a sudden, right? But like when your intention was that to give us that knowledge to help us financially like invest in something like, I mean, your job can be lost anytime, and like, I mean, you have to have a passive income, and that financial literacy thing really stuck with me. That's how I got into like, I mean, this investing itself, right? Like let alone other going to other platforms. So I mean, I'm so happy. Like, I mean, I've been using it for 5 years, and I'm happy with the service. Thank you so much.
We have very high retention, by the way, so I'm happy to. Oh, no question. Okay, great.
It was a thank you message. All right, next.
So, hi, I'm Bassam. So, what gave you that conviction, or the motivation and the conviction to stick with it? Although you said there was this big hurdles from the regulator.
There was a lot of hurdles. Not only from Look, I'm pretty sure everyone here is an entrepreneur. I know that you all know it's not all rosy and it's not all great. There's the ups and downs, and it's a roller coaster. So there have been a lot of moments where it was tough. But that's why also, personally, I really like having co-founders, because we sort of pull each other, right? So whenever someone is down, someone has the energy up, and it balances. I always say it's a combination of being very stubborn and being very optimistic, right? Because you need to persevere in the face of the challenges if you want to make it to the other side. Nothing in life comes easy. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of passion that you have to put behind what you're doing. And you don't necessarily need to be passionate about what you're building or what you're selling, but maybe about the building itself, right? Like people talk about, I personally love building. I love taking something from zero and seeing it scale and grow, and people wanting to use it or buy it. So this is something I'm personally passionate about. So it's just that. It's a combination of perseverance, stubbornness, and a bit of passion.
Beautiful questions.
Hey, Nadine, nice to meet you. I have a question regarding fintech. So I'm also running a fintech. How do you explain to people, because not everyone can understand fintech, especially in fintech terms.
Yeah.
How would you explain that to them in a simple terms, especially with the investors or with the audience? Because I found it difficult to explain where I position and how we are solving what we are solving in fintech. So yes, we're struggling with that part. So
What are you
how
building?
did you do it? Like,
What are you building?
we're building in it's a B2B control layer for acquirer and POS vendors. So we are trying to disrupt the current infrastructure that is happening right now, which we encounter with meeting with banks and acquirers. So we're trying to separate the hardware and the software. It's quite hard to explain to people that what is acquirer first and what are POS vendors. So what are they? Because they are hidden from the public. Not everyone knows acquirers. So how do you connect those, especially to the investors?
But a simple way to look at it is to find investors that do understand, right? Like usually, I know here in the region especially, I'll give you personal experience. When we started Sarwa and we would go and pitch to investors, they would literally compare our numbers and our metrics to e-commerces. So it's very tough to tell them, you know what, we started the financial technology, my CAC was $1,000, and they're like, why is this website that is selling, I don't know, bed sheets, they can get someone for $10. So because the investor pool here was very agnostic and they weren't really vertical specific. So it depends on the market you're in and the investors you're going after. I know it's not easy here necessarily to find investors that understand specifically what you do, but try to start at least with these, this vertical, and then you can broaden it and you can also start testing it as much as you can. I would test it a lot with events like this with friends and family just to refine it. And there is something about building that muscle. So the more you talk about it, the more you actually say it out loud to people that don't know you, the more you're going to be so comfortable in selling it eventually.
Hi, Nadine. Question. If you had to redo Sarwa, what would you do differently? And did you apply that when you built the second company, Nawa?
So if you follow Mark, and one of the last posts he said was, there is no fintech founder that will go and build another fintech. I don't know. I mean, if we were to do Sarwa all over again, it's a very difficult question to answer because what we did got us to where we are, right? So if something was different, I don't know where it's going to lead us. But I can tell you, we talk about it a lot. Who here has co-founders? Okay. See, that's not an easy dynamic in the beginning either. I bet you have some challenges, right? So we are 3 co-founders in Sarwa, and Nawa we're 2. And Sarwa, we've known each other for a very long time, so we already had that dynamic of at least sharing the same value, being on the same frequency. And yet we faced issues in the beginning. We were stepping all over each other's toes. And once we realized that we had to respect each other's strength and each other's role and responsibilities, that's maybe when also the company started doing this, is when you define what each person brings to the table. And I think that was one of the biggest learnings in the beginning. Maybe more open communication, you know?
I have one question for buy now, pay later model. What is the best strategy for an early company to raise money? We should raise against debt, or we should raise for equity?
I mean, in your space, it's a lot of debt, right? Usually, typically. Okay. It depends again on how you want to build. Look, for Nawa, I didn't go with the typical, none of my investors are VCs, and I have only very, very few investors. That's also, it's a very different company, by the way. If anyone is curious, Nawa is in the apparel space, nothing to do with fintech. Consumer goods, physical goods, manufacturing facilities, so very different. But I decided from the get-go that I want to bring investors that are partners in the long term, right? I'm not a VC play, and right now, in that phase of my life, I'm not looking for VCs anyways, because it comes with a different kind of set of challenges. So it really depends on how you want to build your product. Sometimes, initially, it could be that you want to build something that doesn't necessarily require any capital in the back or any debt in the back. Or do you want to go full Tabi Tamara system? Yeah? Okay, that requires a lot of capital, so yes. I would do combination. A combination is typically a best approach.
Hello, hi. Thank you, first of all, for an interesting talk. You mentioned that when you started Sarwa, you were in competition with banks and any entities that wanted our hard-earned money.
Yes.
So, needless to say, it's a pretty crowded industry. So I'm interested to know, based on your experience, what are the hallmarks of a marketing strategy in a crowded industry that doesn't include paid ads?
That doesn't include paid ads?
Yes. Any other tips to make sure marketing is
I'm in love with the unpaid channels, honestly. Like, I love that. Initially, by the way, one of the key channels for Sarwa was PR. And we never hired an agency. Something else, by the way, we did at Sarwa is everything was in-house. No agencies ever. So whatever we built, it was a small team and so much passion and harassment. We used to do a lot of LinkedIn harassment, so I know Roni all about it. We used to just send to, I remember when we initially started Sarwa, I was sending messages to CNN and Bloomberg and Euronews and telling them, listen, we're an amazing company, we're from here, we're building something for here, come and talk to us. And they did. Shockingly, they did. So I think sometimes, you know, it's the angle you take and the storytelling. I'm a big believer in storytelling.
Thank you. I appreciate
We had one of our, with the cohort we were in, and I'm not going to name them because they're incredible founders, but they had a product that's similar to ours, and they had an amazing product, maybe a better product, but they had zero focus on marketing. And unfortunately, today, they don't exist anymore. So I think it's always going to be a combination of both, and the storytelling is super key in what you built.
And I just wanted to say, I've been in banking for 26 years. And I follow Sarwa from inception. And I wanted to say thank you and well done. I know how
thank you so
difficult it is, how competitive it is in the banking industry with the products and bringing client loyalty. Well done.
Thank you. Very nice.
A lot of thank you messages and well done. I wish I had that. Any questions? Yeah. Any questions? We'll take two more.
Hey, hi. So you mentioned that for your new startup, you're specifically not a VC play, and that you're at the stage of your life where you don't want to onboard venture capital, which makes sense given the stress involved. But if you want to really categorize, what does it mean by taking on venture capital versus taking on, let's say, for a group of investors, basically like angels or whatever? Because everyone wants a return at the end of the day. But how would you compare both approaches and basically what you took on at the earlier stage of your life when you took on the 25+ million of between angels and venture capital versus right now what you're doing with your fundraise? How are you looking to balance performance to investors with a personal life, for example, now? And what did that look like when VCs were involved? What did they require from you, essentially?
I think any business owner would tell you there is no balance and personal life, right? You're always working, and exactly. It's with VC, because I think most of you here are in the tech play, right? So it's all about scalability. It's all about how do you grow as fast as you can. While, I mean, that's another lesson learned at Sarwa. We decided to be profitable. So when we actually go and talk to VCs, we're not coming from a weak place, right? And that changed the way we were building and growing massively. It made us much more comfortable and much more resilient when you have, disruptions that can happen like today, for example, right? Because I remember there was a time post our raise where we were considering the cash flow, and there was another tech crunch, and investors, the ecosystem, they were all talking about no one is investing right now. Now, we were lucky enough that we actually had runway. So for me with Nawa, again, I realized very quickly it's a CapEx play, it's a very different play. I did have few of the VCs that were Sarwa investor that when they know that I was building a new company, they reach out, they're like, we want in. And the reality is it wasn't for them. It's not something that will work for their portfolio, for their return on investment. It's a longer play and it's a sustainable business. So the approach is very different. It's just about like what you're trying to build and how you want to build it.
Hi, this is Hamza. I'm in tokenization of real-world assets, and I have a question regarding the regulatory compliance here in the UAE and in this era, where you mentioned as Sarwa in the early days how they acquired these customer and the 100 customers. How, if we want to go into the same Sarwa but in a tokenized fashion, tokenization of real-world assets, the same as Kipco, if you want to go that path, how we will try to mimic the regulatory compliance and develop something that can provide like the same financial solutions as it was before, like as the Sarwa's journey was.
So if I get the answer correctly,
the second question I would like to ask is the procrastination most of the founders face is that like they will be like working on one idea and later on they will say, okay, this is not working, let's jump into the other one.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, no, don't do that. I always refer to the North Star, right? So you have, when you're building a company, you have a North Star. You have something you're working towards, you're aiming towards, whether it's your mission, your vision, what you're trying to build. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't change and shift the roads you take, right? I'm working with metaphors here. But even for us, we pivoted a few times from the initial build that we were putting in place, right? For those who have been following Sarwa for a long time, we started really fully robo-advisor, don't touch your money, passive investing. Then we added trade. Big question from the community is, but you've been saying, passive investing, now you're adding self-directed trading. there was a journey to get to that, and we realized the clients, that's what they want, but it was on us to give them, you know, all the tools they need to make informed decisions, right? So we focused a lot on education. That was part of our marketing strategy. Is, again, like I said, the workshops, the webinars, the social content, the SEO, all of this, there was so much that we put out there. So I personally think focus is important, but be flexible enough and move around enough to be able to get to where you want to get.
Nadine, I'm going to wrap it up with you here. Where is Nadine going today? So you're going home after here, but
For sure.
where is Nadine going with Nawa?
Big dreams, and yeah, I think it's just about, for all of us, contributing as much as we can and building something that I can be proud of, that my kids can be proud of too.
In short, can you tell us, and whoever doesn't know, what Nawa is, what is it exactly?
So Nawa, well, it is actually, it's an apparel brand. It's a clothing brand that I want to build from here, from the region, to export to the world. So to me, it's about building manufacturing capabilities in the region, building talent in the region, and we have so much going on for us, and I believe there's so much we can do. By the way, and in my background, I have two backgrounds. I have one in finance and one in design and pattern making. I did 2 degrees. So I love the science and the math, and I love the art and everything that comes with it. So I've done finance, which is great, and now I'm going into the art side, but consumer goods, building a brand where we can cater first to women, and then to kids and men and lifestyle and everything in between. But at the core of it is supply chain control. That's what I want to build. That's why CapEx. That's why it's heavy on CapEx.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. By the way, I loved basketball and volleyball as well in university, so this is what I loved. but guys, round of applause for Nadine. Nadine, thank you so much. All right, thank you for coming and sharing everything.